This media is brought to you by Polyscope.
In the realm of tomorrow, where techniques mind, we ponder, we dream.
So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to finally meet you because this is how we meet each other nowadays, over Zoom. So why don't you,
Right.
so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share with the audience. One of the things that I'm most passionate about right now is staying in tune and to the best of my ability ahead of what's going on with AI.
Hmm.
There's so much conversation about Chat GPT and all the other platforms and how they are transforming businesses as well as our everyday lives, right? And
Hmm.
Chris, I'm 51 and
No,
yeah, seriously.
no, impossible. Impossible. I don't believe it.
So I'm at a stage in my life where, I don't have kids, but I have a goddaughter who's 16 who makes me feel old all the time. Maybe
Oh
you,
my God. Yes. Kids, they totally make you feel old, don't they?
yeah, they absolutely
It's
do.
like
But
you reference something that you know really well, and they're like, "What are you talking about? What is that?" I'm like, what
and
happened?
then at the same time, right, they have a whole different language that I have no
Oh, for
idea
sure.
what they're saying, right? So I have to literally look it up. So that also makes me really cognizant of the fact that things are changing. They're changing fast. And what I don't want to do is get in a place where I wake up, I don't know if it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and feel totally, lost, disjointed, out of place because I didn't make it a priority
Right.
to really understand AI, how it can help us, and what some of the fallout may be. So that's really what's on my mind right now. And that ties to our work that we're doing at Lead Reviver, which is all about using AI in a positive way to fill in gaps for sales teams or organizations that are really lean and don't have the capacity to follow up on all the leads that are filling out their form online. For many business owners, you're so busy taking care of the person that's in front of you, whether it's in a physical business or on a platform like this, that finding the time in your day between doing that, putting out fires to actually follow up on all those people that have expressed interest can fall by the wayside. So at Lead Reviver, we step in the gap and we leverage the power of AI to re-engage those conversations, kind of take care of the initial, pre-qualification, and then put them in touch with someone that can help to really provide that human touch and take it the rest of the way.
So can you describe, I mean, I've talked to a few other people who do this something similar, but maybe you can describe the process about how it would work. Like say, I'm coming in as a new lead or as a new prospect. I'm interested in your company. How does this work?
Yeah. So the part that we focus on, Chris, is actually what I would refer to as the middle. So nothing changes. You're going online to a website. Maybe, a very common example is you're interested in checking out a program at a gym. So
Mm,
in most gym spaces, the way that you do that is you do a free trial first. So you go onto their website, fill out your name, your information, and you say, hey, I'm interested in checking this out before I commit to becoming a member.
right.
So in most instances, what typically happens is someone at the gym gets that information, they pick up the phone or they leverage their in-house technology to follow up with that person either via email or SMS, or sometimes a combination of both.
Right.
But what typically happens in my own experience, because I went through this last year, is the person does a pretty good job for that first initial outreach, and then they might follow up one more time. And then after that, they get consumed with everything else, right?
Right.
So what we do is we then take that same prospect, we take them into our universe. We leverage a custom AI bot so that we're not dependent on a particular platform. We build them from scratch based on our client's voice and how they want to treat their customer. And so then we would reach out via SMS or email. Hey, is this the same Chris that was interested in XYZ fitness?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you're going to say yes, and we'll be able to move that conversation forward. But if you don't, because AI isn't like us, and it doesn't, feel bad about following up and reaching out or bothering someone.
I know a lot of people who don't feel bad about following up,
Well,
especially in sales, right?
That's true. But what happens in some instances, Chris, is people got into business because they wanted to help people, not because they wanted to be salespeople, right?
Right.
So then that particular type of business owner or organization can really benefit from this, because AI is going to follow up until you, Chris, say, yes, I want to continue the conversation, or no, now is not a good time. And then what's really amazing about this is it doesn't have to stop there, because we would do something like, okay, great, not a good time. Would it make sense for me to follow up in 60 days or in 30
Mm-hmm.
days? Because we want to give the prospect an opportunity to just say, hey, I'm still interested in this, but now isn't the best time. And then that just creates a pipeline for us to follow up when it might make more sense. So that's the way we handle the process. And then let's say you said, yes, I'm interested. We would ask you some follow-up questions. For example, in the scenario of the gym. So what, inspired you to check out our facility? You may say something like, hey, I want to get back into shape. And then we would say, okay, great. What is your number one goal? So you may say, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds, 15 pounds, whatever it is. Great. Is there a time frame in which you'd like to accomplish that goal? What are we doing with these questions? Is we're trying to gather information that's going to help prepare that business owner or that salesperson when we hand that prospect off, to be prepared for the conversation, not going into it cold, and also pre-qualifying, right? Because they're just kicking tires. They don't really have any goal. Oh, I just wanted to come for, check it out because it's free. Like, that's not really where you want to spend the majority of your time. Of course, we want to provide great service, but when you are especially lean team, you want to spend your time with people that are serious about their goals and what they're looking to accomplish. So now we're able to gather all of that information, hand it off to that team, get that prospect to book a call for Friday at 10 a.m. And then when that conversation happens at Friday at 10, that business owner knows, the inspiration for booking the appointment, what their goal is, what they're looking to accomplish, and they are able to just pick up the conversation from there. So it's really designed to save time, but also to provide a personal touch to the prospect, as well as prepare that business owner or that salesperson so that they are able to really focus on serving, because they know exactly what that person needs.
So do you normally start with that human touch point, or do you sometimes go straight into the AI?
So for us, we actually leverage AI, but here's the beauty of it. What we have found is that it's all about how you approach that initial outreach. So we work really hard. It is technology, but we work really hard to make it as human-like as possible. So we're using the prospect's name. We're referencing something, if we can, that would help ring a bell, is what we call that. So if, for example, another space where we help is maybe the business owner has been to an event and they've had one of those tables, and a lot of times people are filling out forms and things like that. So we would reference the particular conference. This is, Chris, we connected at XYZ conference, and then the prospect can say, oh yeah, I remember that, right? So we're trying to do little, small things that we can do to make it as human-like as possible, but also to make it scalable, right? Because keeping up with every detail of every prospect is going to be really hard, but we can do small things like that to try to make it as human as possible. And then, as I'm sure using AI in your own personal life, it's all about the prompting and the way that you train it, right?
Right.
So ensuring that the way that you train the AI is to use conversational tone and, avoid, these types of things that would be off-putting to a prospective client, those
You
are
mean
things.
delving and diving in testaments?
Yeah. Delve is like it's done. Like no one is going to, as soon as anyone sees that word, they're either going to know, yes, you use AI, or you didn't take the time to go back and edit, right? Because
That's right.
that giveaway. But yes, it's exactly that kind of thing that will kind of tip your hand. So we work really, really hard to train our AIs to be as close to human as possible.
So when you, I mean, I've been the subject of, and I'm sure you have, of thousands of these drip email campaigns, right? What makes this different from any other drip email campaign? Because we've got, I mean, there's static drip email campaigns and there's some dynamic ones. So do you have AI writing like rewriting every single note to every single person?
Yeah, so it is customized based on how that prospect responds. So
Mm,
what typically happens, so in the example that I used, and again, I'll use my personal experience from last year when I was looking at, okay, I want to do something different. I want to try a different gym. What I got and what I get most of the time when I'm looking at something is something that feels like a blast.
right.
Hey, Chris,
Always the same.
going on at so and so, and it's very boilerplate. It's
Yeah.
very clear that it's an announcement. This is not an announcement. This is a one-to-one conversation that we are starting with AI. So how you respond is going to dictate what the next question is. We're
Mm,
going to acknowledge the response. So, oh, thank you for telling me. Okay, so your number one goal is this. We're going to actually feed back things to that prospect that help them to know that we're listening. Now, I know that sounds kind of strange because it's technology,
mm,
but technology is able to retain what is shared with it if it is trained appropriately.
yeah.
And so that's what we focus on, is we're training the AI to truly, if you will, listen to that prospect, be able to feedback what they share. And then the great part from a sales conversation is always move the conversation forward. We don't let that conversation just die. For example, if there was a gap, the AI would be smart enough, if you will, to say, hey, are you still there?
Mm,
Hey, bumping this back up, just like you and I would do if we
yeah.
sent it when someone did not respond. So I think that is the difference. There is automation that feels very one to many, and then there's automation that feels one to one, and that's where we focus, is the one to one.
Fantastic. So are you the founder of the company, or are you one of the founders?
I am. And it really started, Chris, because I was looking for a way to leverage AI from a business standpoint. And looked at a couple of different things. At one point, I honestly was thinking about investing in another company
Hmm.
that's working on some things with AI. But the more that I started checking out what they were doing and learning what was going on in the space, I said, maybe this will be, one of those things, as we talked about, I'm getting a little bit earlier, but this is an opportunity for me to stay ahead of the curve, and to make a difference, I think, for many business owners that are out there.
So what drove you to decide to go down this path as opposed to other paths?
Yeah, I think for me, I immediately recognized that this is solving a problem and it's genuinely helping. I'll
Mm.
go back to my experience when I was in corporate. So I have been an entrepreneur for 12 years, but part of that
And you
time,
survived. Congratulations.
and I
It's
survived,
not
right?
for
I'm still
everybody.
here. That's true. And interestingly enough, for me, during the most of that time, for 10 years of that time, I was kind of straddling the fence. So I was working in corporate, and then I was doing entrepreneurial things as my side hustle, if you will, because I just
Yeah.
had a knack to do more.
Oh, I
Um,
think everyone should have at least one side hustle in their lives, so they know what it's
Absolutely.
like.
Absolutely. So for me, once I retired at the end of 2023 from corporate, it was like, it was a easier transition because I had been doing other things all along.
By the way, congratulations for retiring at 50 or whatever age it is, and not waiting all the way
Yeah,
until
I'm
the end.
fortunate. I'm really fortunate. I didn't want to wait because I wanted to enjoy
Nice.
the time, because you don't know how much time that you have. But as I was saying, in the corporate space, one of the many jobs that I had was in sales performance. And in that role, it was my job to look at 5 different call centers that we had in our organization at the time and look for ways to be able to drive better sales results.
Oh,
So
okay.
one of the things that was consistently a problem, Chris, like without fail, was follow up.
Mm.
Our
Which is
team,
funny because I think that's probably the easiest thing to do.
but
Because
here's what
once you have
happened.
it on the hook, it's like
Yeah,
keep
but
pulling.
here's the thing. I think it's the nature of people from my observation.
Mm.
So, I worked in sales performance at that high level, but then at one point, I also managed a team of 18 salespeople. And my experience in both arenas was that we have an instinctive nature to focus on what is in front of us.
Mm.
So what would happen is in that call center space, we would say we get in the queue. So you would get in the queue, meaning that you're available to take calls. And so then a call would come in, you would take care of that customer. Naturally, there would be things that you would have to wrap up after that conversation is over. And then as soon as you do that, what happens? Bing, 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 another call comes in. So
Yep.
that just happens all day. And we would always, when I managed my own team, I would do this. And from a sales performance, we would do this. Hey, make sure that you're carving out time in your day, even if it's just an hour, to make sure that you're doing your follow-ups. And people would, yeah, I'm going to do that. And we would coach to that. But the reality, Chris, is it just didn't happen consistently. The only time that it did happen is if things slowed down. So if the phone wasn't ringing, or in a brick and mortar situation, if people aren't coming in, if there isn't foot traffic, then we could get people to do it, because salespeople naturally,
Which is nuts, because everyone knows your most likely sale is probably someone who's already contacted you, so they're warm, right? And
exactly.
it's like mining that thing. And it's like, you know how that phrase that people say, 80% of life is showing up. Well, I think 80% of sales is follow up,
It's follow
right?
up.
If you don't
Absolutely.
follow up, and you have to continuously follow up, even past the point of we're thinking, I'm going to stop bugging this person. It's like, no, no, no. You keep bugging this person until he says, go
They say
away.
no. Yes, or
Or
go
they
away.
buy.
Yeah, but it's been my observation that we know that, but doing it is always a challenge.
Yeah.
There are rare people that are able to consistently do that, but most people don't. And so that's when I learned about hey, people are using AI to actually fill in gaps like this. I was like, oh, this makes
That's a
so
great
much
idea,
sense.
because AI never gives up. You just tell
It
AI, don't
never
give
gives
up.
up. It never, like, literally, that's what we tell our AIs with, as we're training them, like, don't give up. So that, even the example that I gave you earlier, even if they say no, it's like, okay, is it not a good time? Or like, still one more chance to see, is this truly dead? Or
Yeah.
is this just not, did I just catch you on the wrong day? Or do you have
Yeah.
things going on in your personal life? Because I
Yeah.
think that's what we have to acknowledge too, is sometimes people are just distracted.
Oh, timing. Timing is the most important thing. You just hit the right person at the right moment. If you continue hitting them, eventually the right moment will come along, especially if they've expressed interest at the beginning, unless they decide to go to some other gym or something like that. So then that might be a cutoff. But, the continuous conversation, I think, is super important. And people forget that. What's the latest number? I heard it was 7 touch points, 9 touch points, 12 touch points. It's like,
Last
it's
I heard
probably
was
infinite.
11. The last
It's
I heard
probably,
was 11. Yeah,
yeah,
but you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the ultimate answer is follow up until the prospect tells you no. I
yeah,
really believe that's the answer, because you hit on such an important point that I think is easy to forget, is that they took that step for a reason.
mm,
Like, they could have been doing something else with that time, but they chose to go onto your website and fill out this form. Or if it was an ad, they chose to click on it and fill it out. There's a reason that they did that. And until whatever that problem is solved, then that person is still in the market. And a lot
exactly.
of it is going to come down to, you kind of alluded to this, I can say from a personal experience, it depends on how I'm treated too, right?
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
it's not just, I think it can be easy as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, to be so in love with our product and our service that we assume that everyone wants it. And that
Well,
could
it's
be
true. Everyone does want it. Come on. Otherwise, we wouldn't be selling it.
well, I think there's the product or the service, but there's also treatment, and I think that's one of the things that I want entrepreneurs and business leaders to understand is it's not just the what, it's the how, and
Mm.
it's a big part of my decision making process because the reality is there are many different people that do most things.
Hmm.
So how do you decide who you're going to go with? For me, it's going to come down to is it a quality product or service, but also how do you deliver that product or service?
Right.
Do I feel like I am just a number to you, or do I feel like I am truly a valued customer? And I think we have to communicate care, not just in the moments when people say yes right away and they're signing up and they're getting all the upsells, but even when the answer is no or not now.
Right. Right.
Because they
Fantastic.
will come back. They will come back if we do the right thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they've expressed interest at some point, then I mean that's almost that's all the way there. It's kind of like the toughest part of business
Interest.
today,
Yes,
if you ask me, is gaining any kind of attention. And
that's
you've
right.
already grabbed some attention when they reach out to you. So you're like, you should just like hold on that like it's a life raft or something like that,
Yeah.
because you may never get that attention ever again. So keep it.
You're absolutely right. And here's the other thing, Chris, that I think is important for our audience to understand is you've already paid for it. You've
Yes.
already paid for it. Whether it's that you ran ads to get that person to raise their hand, or you organically were investing your time on social media, or you had someone in your organization doing that. They don't work for free. You have to pay them. If you're doing it, you're taking time away from something else. So it's still an investment, right? You already paid for that person to raise their hand. Why not, to your point, ensure that you maximize your ROI, but because you've already invested in it? Many entrepreneurs and business owners are literally leaving tens of thousands, in some instances, depending on the size of the organization and what they sell, hundreds of thousands of dollars are literally sitting in their CRM
Oh
because
yeah.
the follow-up didn't happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so this is great. So now it's time to think like a futurist. It's the year 2035, 10 years from now. Where do you think we're going to be in 10
Mm.
years?
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about this question a lot because in my space there's kind of, in my view, two camps. There's the people that think AI is going to drastically transform everything and there will literally be no jobs within the next 5 years. And then there's the other camp that thinks this is going to take 10 or 20 years.
Hmm.
And my answer is
Same result, just longer time frame.
this longer time frame. My thought is that it's probably somewhere in the middle. I do believe that the world will drastically change from what we see it today within the next 10 years. I think a lot of jobs, I told someone the other day, things that in the corporate space I was getting paid really great money to do, AI can literally do in seconds,
Oh,
and it's
absolutely. Absolutely.
mind blowing.
100%.
It's mind blowing. So I don't, knowing what I know just in how I use it in my business, but also how I use it in my personal life, I'm like, there's no way that there cannot be a drastic transformation. So if I were to fast forward, I think a lot of the repetitive jobs that exist today will be phased out and will be automated, leveraging the power of technology. But my
Yeah.
hope is that we will also take the steps now so that we're prepared for that moment.
Mm.
I reflect back on a conversation that happened this weekend, just hanging out with friends, and it was a business owner that was like, "Man, I don't, and they were in the trade, so they felt, oh, I don't really need to know AI. I'm not going to mess with that." And long story short, by the end of the weekend, they were open to it because they started to recognize, hey, if I don't learn this, like, I'm going to be left behind. So even if you're in the trades, yeah, maybe you're not using it in terms of how you're, repairing plumbing or something like that, but that's the only one function of your business. There's so many other components that, believe it or not, are going to leverage AI more and more as time passes.
Oh
So
yeah.
I just think it's going to take over so many roles, to be transparent, that are repetitive, even some high paying roles. Many of those roles will not exist. Even in trades, people will be using AI. But here's the thing. I don't believe that AI is a full replacement. It still needs management, it needs supervision. So, my hope would be that we will have more engineers, if you will, people that have learned how to use AI effectively. So, maybe it used to take 10 people to do it in today's world. And in the future, it takes one AI expert to manage the AI and get better results. But if you really think about it, my hope would be that that makes us even more effective, that allows us business owners to generate more revenue, to minimize expenses. And then here's the last thing is my hope is that that will inspire us to be more generous, because we will have the capacity to do it. In a capitalist society, we can be very, very focused on maximizing shareholder return, and let's generate the most amount of money. And I'm not opposed to that. I can see value to it. I guess my question is, what are we going to do with it? And my hope will be, as we see AI cut down on expenses, allow us to be more effective and generate more revenue, that more people will be inspired to help others that maybe are not in such great situations, and maybe support some of the causes. There are still a number of diseases out here that we haven't been able to figure out how to cure. So let's use some of that newfound money, if you will, to actually make this world a better place.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's not going to take away jobs, but it's going to 10 times, 100 times your own productivity, right? So
Yeah.
instead of doing, you'll do a lot more work as opposed to doing, having fewer people, I think.
Yeah, I think it honestly depends on how the organization works, right? Because I can imagine in my space that the more and more people that take advantage of things like what we offer may not need as many salespeople, because the reality of when I was managing sales team is part of the time that they were on the phone, they were asking the same questions that my AI can now do without a person
Exactly.
being involved,
But
right?
those people can be repurposed. You see, that's the thing.
Yeah,
Instead of
that
instead of
would be
letting
my
them
hope. Yeah.
go, get them to do something else, something that only humans can do. Because I think we're in a weird state right now where we have humans doing things AI should be doing and AI doing things humans should be doing. So we need to sort of reapportion our jobs, like give the human jobs to the humans, give the AI jobs to the AI, and then everyone will be a lot happier. But I think we're still stuck in a situation where there's a lot of people who like their jobs, even
Yeah.
though it's a job that could be taken over by AI because it's easy to do, right? But
Mhm.
everyone's got this big human brain. There's so much we could do with it. But if you're just doing some rote stuff that AI can do, you should be stretching yourself. You should be getting a better job. You should be doing something more human. I think that's kind of where we're
I,
at right now. So hopefully that'll all shake out.
yeah, I agree. I think openness is a big part of it. What you're alluding to here is, are we willing to release what we see today and recognize, hey, the reality is that this won't be here 5 years from now. So what am I going to do now so that I will be prepared? And if that happens, as you've explained here, I think that's going to be amazing. And what you've described is going to be exactly the place. We'll have humans focusing on the things where they're really needed. I think the question mark is, does everyone have that drive and determination? Is everyone willing to go against inertia? Because human nature is, I'm going to
Oh
stay
yeah.
for as long as I can. And so part of the reason that I love having these conversations, even when they get uncomfortable to talk about things like that job won't exist, 5 years from now, it's important to me because I want people to be thinking about that now. I don't want people to wake up 5 years from now and be like, oh my God, like I don't have skills to be able to contribute in this society. We have to start helping people, developing the right mindset and developing the skills now.
Absolutely right. So thank you so much. This has been great. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
I would love for people to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Tamara Jackson. I hang out there often, almost on a daily basis. And you can also visit our website at leadreviver.pro. Chris, thank you so much
I
for
love
giving
it.
me the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much. I'll put the links in the show notes so people can go direct. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Pixels and philosophies merge and mold, a future untold, unseen.